Well, that is not a typical place to find a problem now, is it? Welcome back to Nate the Hoof Guy. And it's not just this cow either. The second cow in today's video, well, she too has a problem in an unusual location. Now, most white line issues we find are going to be on the outside wall or that abaxial wall side of the hoof. This one is on the axial wall or that inner wall. It's a rare place to find it, and they oftentimes can be painful, so it's a good place to find and get this taken care of. So why do we typically not see problems here? Has to do with pressure. Most of the pressure is applied toward the outer wall of that hoof. That's where it's designed to go. You might sometimes see some sole ulcer issues toward the inner part of the hoof, but for the most part, those higher pressures are going to be toward that outer edge of the hoof. Therefore, that white line area there is going to be more prone to problems. But in this case, well, you can plainly see this problem is on that inner part. Now, I've talked in the past how these lesions come to be. You're going to be able to see it once again here on this axial wall side. But you notice where that mark is now. That's not where the lesion is going to be. It's actually going to be up a little bit higher in that claw. But as we're working our way down through those layers of hoof horn and getting closer to that corium level, you're going to notice that that mark and that sole is moving. That's because that flaw in that white line is actually up higher on that claw. The lesion is going to be associated with that defect, but as that hoof grows over time, that flaw in that white line or that defect actually moves down the foot, down that claw with that growth. So it's going to look, or it's going to appear as if that mark is moving, when in actuality it's just the growth of that hoof over time that's making that mark move. You can also see how thick this sole actually is. Maybe hard to see that in a normal video, but you can see we're pared down quite a ways before we finally get to the area where that problem is. It's kind of nice now with these cooler temps and all the fans are off in the barns. You can really hear the outside sounds a lot better in the videos. Now, another thing you'll notice with lesions associated with the axial wall side is they tend to be much smaller in size, and that's the case with this cow as well. You'll notice that redness mottled throughout that claw. It's more symptoms of excess pressure and breakdown of that support mechanism inside the claw, which is likely what caused this lesion to form in the first place. As I mentioned earlier, this lesion is not very big and there's not a lot of separated hoof horn associated with it. So we were able to trim that all away, just a small area of corium disturbed there. We are going to put a block on that other claw, and yes, we are going to wrap this. But as far as lesions go, this is a small one, which is a good thing, a lot less area that we need to try to heal and we need to keep clean. Now, one of the questions that I get all the time is why do I put glue on the side of that hoof when I put that block on? If you look here, I got about a ½ inch all the way along that outside wall that's holding on to that glue. Just gives about 15 to 20% more surface area for that glue to hold on to. Well, she's done. Now on to this one, and we can see we've got a lot of deep heel horn erosion here. The odd part about this one, this is going to be on the medial claw. Now, typically, we're going to find problems on the lateral claw on the back feet, but this one's on the medial. When we get in there, we're going to see exactly why she's favoring it. So most trims, I like to start with a little bit of knife work, just remove some of those bigger chunks, and it kind of gives me an idea, especially when I've got a cow that needs a therapeutic trim, gives me an idea of what that problem might be on the inside. This one, just based on my first glances, could be a sole ulcer situation or it could have been a white line. But once I start to remove some material, it becomes pretty obvious where that problem is now. Could you just start the trim with a grinder? Absolutely. But if there's rocks and debris and stuff inside these areas, you may hit that with your carbides, dulling those. I don't like to do that because I spend a lot of my work or a lot of my time using the grinder, so I want to keep those inserts as sharp as I can, as long as I can. As mentioned, this problem is on the medial claw. It is a white line issue on that medial claw. Now, typically, the lateral is going to be the one that sees the most problems because of pressure, once again. But this one's on the medial. You can see as we look closer, there are a couple of rocks in there. Once again, why I like to identify these areas, kind of get an idea what's there before I start trimming on them. There is still a couple rocks left. Now you notice this dark coloration down here, that's normal hoof color. The stuff up here is shading, that's where we have separation. The difference is you'll have a layer of white hoof horn on the outside of the areas of separation. You can notice as I'm paring that away, it's clear, a little bit white. As we get down in there, then the color changes. Whereas toward the tips of the toes, that color is in every single layer. You remove a little bit, it'll be there all the way through that entire solar area, and it doesn't really move. Whereas that shading, the further I go in, the more shading you're able to see. As I remove this first piece, start to see the extent of what we're dealing with here. Once again, notice the size. Outside wall edge, much larger. Inside wall edge, much smaller. Back to pressure, right? The more pressure we have exerted on these claws, the more area of corium is going to be disturbed when we do have white line issues. And that's what we got here. You can see there's actually a pretty big area. This is where the salicylic acid wrap at the end of this is going to really come in handy because there's a lot of corium here that needs to be treated. We're just working carefully along this lesion edge, making sure we remove any of these sharp edges that might irritate that corium, working our way, thinning the margins all the way around that lesion. That's just going to give us the best chance of healing. We can get our chlorhexidine spray in there, really flush that area out if we've got all those ridges taken away. We can also, with it being thinned out, those margins thinned out, not have to worry about any pinching happening as that hoof horn moves. So we're going to get this block in this other claw. Once again, the salicylic acid is going to come in really handy here. You can see by the looks of that corium, it's not in the best shape right now. So the exfoliating properties of that salicylic acid is really going to help remove some of that damaged corium and get it in a healthier state so it can start to produce hoof horn again. We need it to first begin to heal and get in that state before it can start to do that. So that is where the salicylic acid really comes in handy. It also kills any bacteria that could cause digital dermatitis, then keep this open. The number one complicating factor in any type of healing of lesions is the spirochetes that cause digital dermatitis. They keep that area open. You can see that corium there. We're going to make sure we get that all cleaned out and patted dry. Another question, why do you always pat it dry? Because when you mix salicylic acid with any antiseptic, really, chlorhexidine, iodine, anything like that, there's actually a chemical reaction that happens that makes both products less effective. So I use that chlorhexidine to really flush that area out, get it nice and clean, kill any of those surface bacteria, then pat it dry before I put that salicylic acid wrap on so both products can do what they're designed to do. We're going to get this wrap on, and then she will be done as well. Just a quick trim of this excess glue, and this foot will be ready to go down. And hopefully in a couple weeks, this foot will look a lot better.